And now we have our finals between two very familiar names. But new patch, new maps, new me. Ooh, I have not seen any games played on this map, actually. This is very interesting. Top right, MaxPax. Bottom left, Clem. On Radisset Station. They're just throwing all types of freaking weird names at us that I have to learn to memorize. I've gotten Hecate and Alcyone. Wait. Alcyone. Wait. Shoot! Okay, I got one of the maps down. But I continue to be baffled by some of the other choices here. Great. Anyway, so yeah, I have not seen professional games on this map yet. It doesn't seem to be preferred by many players. But with the new system of vetoes in place, you, first of all, have best of 5, so there's more maps that can be played. But then second of all, the way that they veto now is 2 veto, 2 veto, 2 choose, 2 choose, and then final map, whatever's left, I think. I've already forgotten. Oh boy, I should probably learn that one. Anyway, to have this pop out first and foremost is still a little surprising, because that means someone kind of chose it first and foremost. But why would it maybe not be the most popular map? Because it's one of the weirder ones. It's basically what it is. Sometimes the weirder ones obviously favor a race, so that race is like, give me. But then they get, you know, the other guy vetoes it. So that never happens. And then there's some maps that just basically every race kind of agrees like it's too weird. Even if I think it might favor you or me or the other guy, but it's a little too weird. And this would be one of those maps, especially in its first iteration. It was very, very weird. The first time we saw this on the patch PTR, these rocks were also where the minerals are. There weren't minerals here. And they all got affected by attacks. So if you attack this debris, it would affect all of it. It was very odd. So it was a shockingly weak wall. Now this wall is as strong as you would think when you put this much debris down. The debris, if you attack it, only affects about half of the debris. So you have to kill 2 debris thingies, and then there's minerals that block, 2 lines of minerals that block. So very difficult to engage up this ramp. And so this is a very safe third base as long as you mine out these 2 mineral patches here, which doesn't take too often. That's 4 trips, I believe. But I was trying to describe the map. We actually have a little bit of engaging going on, but it is a marine first into reactor by the looks of things. Yes? Yeah, that must have been what it was. Which is perfect against the early zealot, because you get 3 marines, which is the perfect number. The adept can still tango a little bit, but it's just not worth it. Yeah, it's really not worth it, especially now that the high ground has been reclaimed by Clem. So Clem opens up very well. Plus, you do have that faster cyclone. Doesn't require a tech lab to produce. So you get immediately into the cyclone. You kind of have even more short up defenses for TvP, which was not necessarily the intent of the patch. The cyclone, as far as being a single-use, super ultra good defensive unit in the first 6 minutes of the game, isn't as good. It's a little more vulnerable. But it has a little more micro potential. It comes out faster as well, because the lock-on can change immediately. It's a little more microable in that fashion, but its range is lower, so a little less microable in that area. But anyway, it basically still covers the same ground. It just comes out a little bit faster. It is a great single tool for the Terrans to defend against harassment, including, but not limited to, adept Oracle harassment. At this point, the Oracle will probably survive engagements with the Cyclone. It can run away from the lock-on, but it doesn't mean it's doing any more damage. So that's where I don't really understand the argument the Cyclone change was for the Cyclone's the Oracle's benefit, but that was never communicated from the Balance Council. That was just a guess. Third CC is going to finish. Oh! I thought it was going to be stuck 40 out of 40, but it barely finishes. The Oracle not doing much. Basically, in general, MaxPax not doing much. Their Nexus on the way for him as he does go into the Colossus. So, by the way, not a 4-gate, but this is not a very 4-gateable map. There's not many options to jump in. In fact, it's completely devoid of any 4-gate potential. Looking at it, that is just, oh, that's not going to happen, is it? Oh, geez, no. Nope, nope, nope. I think it might be 2 veto, 2 pick, 2 veto, 2 pick, yeah. Radhus means house in a row. One house is wall to wall to the next one with no lawn between them. Wow, thank you. Speechless. Listen for the day. For the pleasure of hearing commentators mispronounce it. I think they've never forgiven us for that little spout we had 4 years ago. Commentators versus map makers. No, I don't know. MaxPax playing into Phoenix Colossus might seem like an oddity after the last map pool gave us so many 4 gates and 3 gates from MaxPax, but again, this map is just completely unforgettable. It's just not going to happen. So MaxPax has occasionally delved into Phoenix Colossus. It's not a new for him. Clem with a 3cc, it feels very secure in his TvP, is going to head into the mid game. But then it will be troublesome to break MaxPax prior to his 4th base. And actually, MaxPax's late game versus Clem has looked pretty good. Unfortunately, Protoss haven't really gotten very many benefits from the patch as far as the mid and late game. They got rid of the Raven, which is definitely big. I don't want to discredit that. The Raven no longer having an interference matrix and not even apparent in this game, that's a big difference. But then it's arguable that especially the European Terrans would get a Raven against a Phoenix player anyway. So not really pertinent to this particular game. But then otherwise, if you think about the way the patch has changed, the dynamic we are seeing now. The Guardian Shield lasts 2 more seconds. That's it. Yep, that's it. That's it. That's it. The Cyclone's a little bit different again, but it's the same deal as the old Cyclone. One of them entering into minute 7. Not very useful. By the way, the Cyclone is apparently bugged. It is a potentially game-breaking bug that we have not seen so far, but is pretty bad. If you guys haven't checked Reddit today. The Cyclone, it seems like if it tries to attack air and then ground, or Warp Prism and then ground, or something like that, it will assume the lock-on is still going, so you won't be able to lock on again. The lock-on option will be, like, blacked out. Grayed out, or whatever it is, right? When it's not available. So that's going to be interesting to see if that ever gets fixed. If you can't tell, I don't have much faith in the ability of Blizzard, ESL, or whoever it is to fix things, but... Yeah. Kind of a neat idea to keep these units over here by taking the Zelnaga, obviously, good map control, but then also the Phoenix can't comfortably deplete this army, and it could be covering an attack on the rocks, which, again, the minerals block anything from really happening, but drops and all that good stuff. So MaxPax kind of, you know, he can't take away this map presence, but then Clem can't do anything with this side of the map gained. Kind of like a stalemate, I guess. Of course, Clem focusing his attention over to the 3rd base. Really can't do very much about 3 Archons, two Archons, 3 Colossus and Guardian Shield, and Shield batteries that are finishing, but he wasn't sure about that. In fact, it is now MaxPax's time to tango. He is moving out on the map. Clem should have certainly enough economy to build up to Vikings. Yep, he's about to be on his 3rd and 4th. 2nd starport is on the way. Additional barracks as well. Armory 2 as he looks to go to 2-2. 1-1's already done. MaxPax not working on shields anytime soon. That would be the other change of the patch, but not anytime soon. And is about to engage. I'm not sure he really wants to, though. Now, this is a rather choked up natural. If MaxPax is able to go for it, Clem choking it up even further by building a 4th command center might regret this. An attack is incoming. It's a decent Terran army, but a lot of Marines going down this choke. The Ghost will get the EMPs, but I mean, I think it was scary for both players. I could see both perspectives on not engaging there. But Clem had 5 more Marauders about to join in, a couple more Vikings to join in as well. Obviously, defense advantage in general was going to kick in. And it looks like MaxPax is pretty okay with not risking the game there. He pushed out, took the map, saw a potential chance, decided, nope, never mind. And then 4th base, saturated 2-1 on the way, faster than his opponent's 2-2. Blinked in, you know, it's all good. It's all good. It's all Gucci. 5th base on the way as well. Clem having, you know, gotten over the little hump that occurs in TvP where the Colossus kind of reigns supreme with their range, now is back on the front lines to a certain degree. That's not his whole army, of course. Fourth CC on the way for Clem, turning into a planetary, but not before the Zealots arrive. The Zealots are here. Well, I'm not that far away from taking care of them, though. And then the planetary will form. Factory being used to scouts. I feel like I haven't seen this in a long time. But you really, I mean, honestly, you just don't have the APM a lot of the time to even use factory units the later the TvP goes. I would say that defensive Widow Mines are worth keeping the factory building, but Clem is definitely better than I am. This is not all of Clem's army, but it is still a powerful one. 2-2 has yet to finish, however, so that's a bit of a bummer. Protoss currently with better upgrades. Kills 15 SCVs, distracts, and, well, won't be able to do very much more. Clem did have a pretty good split, and the Vikings took care of the Warp Prism, were coming back to help defend, something that MaxPax had to be wary of. He doesn't have that much anti-air. He has 6 Stalkers, and the Phoenix are doing other things, so... In fact, this is going to be one hell of a concave from Clem as his 2-2 finishes. One Disruptor. Oh, getting a good shot, actually. Definitely not bad. But still a very large army for the Terran. Now with better upgrades, too, in 4 seconds. Another Disruptor shot. Not going to grab as much, but still decent. Another Disruptor, number 3, is also going to look to at least buy time, and that is crucial. But the Vikings are taking the time here to kill 2 out of 3 Colossus. Third one also going to be torn down as the Stalkers blinked forward. They're just getting slaughtered. Now even less anti-air, although I guess the Phoenix are around now. But as we know, you move away from Colossus as the Protoss anyway. There's a certain point at which you admit the Vikings will do the job. There's not much more the Colossus can do, other than sacrifice themselves in the best way possible, while dealing damage. And then you move on to Disruptors. And that's another thing that the patch hasn't really addressed appropriately, which is that they wanted to reduce the dependence of Disruptors from the Protoss in late-game TvP, but they just kind of nerfed the Disruptor and then didn't give them anything else. So, yeah. we're probably not going to see that much of a change. At the end of the day, the Disruptor is still that kind of non-direct countered unit. You can't EMP it or have Vikings against it. And it's great at attacking, defending, buying time, and crowd control. But it is useless when it's shot and then it's running away. So there's always that. That Disruptor is going to get a good shot. That one decent as well. Colossus, again, just not really an issue, and the Vikings are now dead weight in the air. Clem is still giving chase, realizing, of course, when the Disruptors are out of shots, the rest of the Protoss army is quite vulnerable. Some would argue that the EMP change has made a late-game Protoss more effective, and that was certainly one of the intentions of it, but I would disagree. We'll get more on that later. Clem did look to chase once again, but also wary of the army he knew was to the south, so he had to split a little bit. Yeah, I would disagree, just because if you have 3 ghosts, which is the natural amount that you get, 3 tech labs, 3 ghosts, you still blanket most of the Protoss army. You know, it's not... they'll have to reduce the EMP size by a very large degree to stop that from happening. But it is something. It's something to try and help out the late-game Protoss. Their Archons might be a little healthier after a couple of EMPs barely don't graze them, you know? Speaking of which, EMP on top of the Zealots. Still way too much army for Clem's little squad to defend against. Now more reinforcements come through, and that will be A-okay, but we have 2 fights going on, you know, both of which both players will be paying a lot of attention to. Viking numbers are still kind of insane. 10 of them, still not really helping all that much, but they're about to be helpful because we got carriers on the way. MaxPax actually moving over into this late-game Sky Toss, which Protoss are understandably hesitant to do. It's a big chunk of change that doesn't guarantee them success with the first 3 carriers. Those are pretty handleable, especially if the Vikings are alive. But if they do kind of progress past that point, they get into 6 carriers, and they also have a decent ground army, and of course a strong economy, and all the good stuff. Then it's fair game. You know, that is the next progression of late-game TvP. Clem would probably want to go more so into Viking Ghosts, with only a certain amount of bio to support. We're getting some of those kind of miscellaneous upgrades, by the way. We got the Caduceus Reactor, which I think is just the funnest word to say. Caduceus. Which is actually helpful. I would say it is more helpful than the old one, but it is still in that category of, like, you get it when you're rich and it's late game. But it increases the energy regeneration rate of the Medivacs. So stimming and running is going to be more effective for the Terran. We have +3 ship weapons on the way. A couple of Liberators finally making their appearance as well. Clem still dodging and weaving. Carriers have yet to arrive. Looks like MaxPax purposefully holding him in his back pocket. Wants to surprise the Terran, but You know, 10 Vikings is really a decent starting amount. It's not going to be as effective of a surprise as the Protoss is hoping. That was a good disruptor shot. Air armor cheaper for the Protoss. Shields cheaper for the Protoss. No air armor in play quite yet, but the carriers, again, being kept secret. Denied on the gold base, and that is a gold base. I didn't really mention that, but you guys can see it with your eyes. 5th base is set up for Clem. Building armor and high-sec auto-tracking. Like I said, those kind of late-game upgrades finally underway. MaxPax has been on 5 bases for a while, really. Now finally moving over to a 6th. A scan! As I think Clem has picked up on the weird smallness. Oh, no! Weird smallness of the Protoss ground forces. Clearly wasn't paying attention. The disruptor shot killed most of the army there. A fairly quick Remax, as he does have the production, but not actually enough minerals. He has got extra orbitals, but just needs to maybe transfer some more workers. 3 Liberators. Kill, you know, a thorn in the Protoss' side, actually. They do have their lib range and +2, so the Stalkers, limited numbers as they are, especially not as helpful. Here come the carriers. They're hoping to change the course of this battle. The Vikings do instantly shift-click on them and will help tear down 1 or 2 Marines, also with their 3-3 tearing down the interceptors. The carriers might just do the trick. Now we have 0 anti-air other than a Liberator, in which he will also probably go down fairly soon. And the carriers did the trick, just not as well as some other variations of this game. Some other games, the Vikings would have landed, they would have split, they would have sacrificed themselves once realizing Colossus were no longer in play, and that would have been a completely Marine-based defense of the carriers, which wouldn't have been enough. But the Vikings did do at least something. They killed 1 carrier, injured another. Definitely not the trade he would want. That was not the engagement Clem wanted. He was surprised by the carriers, but I'm just saying it was a decent starting point. Rocks are broken down, but you need to break down the other rocks, and the minerals will stop the rest of the Protoss army from entering through. The disruptors shouldn't be able to pass through them. Viking numbers really quite strong. 4 starports with reactors means that Clem can afford as many as his minerals and gas allow, which that is currently the limiting factor. Clem's economy not as strong as he was hoping. But the Vikings do have the range. They're a little more microable thanks to the last patch as well, and they are starting to tear down the carrier numbers. The ground force not still as strong as 3-3 bio, too. It's still dependent on the disruptors, so that really is the biggest problem for Clem right now. We've got a drop actually underway. Apparently those units that escaped the disruptors were still over on that top side, and that's actually pretty crucial. I thought that Clem was going to be stuck on his base doing absolutely nothing other than defending, which is going to get more and more harrowing. But having something on the other side of the map is better than not. Viking numbers at 14 to 8 carriers. EMP hits some of the carriers as well. Marines once again helping out as much as they possibly can. Vikings target firing whenever given the opportunity. Anytime you start to see them freak out, it's not very effective. And that army looks to be cleaned up by a couple of DTs for the most part. Stalker's getting warped in as well. Anything to get the monkey off your back. And it's, as I said, better than nothing. To give any consideration to this, to warp in to deal with it, is something that MaxPax has to do other than just continuing to take advantage of Clem's defensive situation. Now Clem can breathe a little easier, finish up some of his command centers, and ideally get a bigger bank. He really hasn't expanded as much as one would hope, I suppose, is how you would say it. Ideally, he would have gotten to his 5th base probably around the same time that he had. You know, maybe he couldn't get that faster, but then he would have wanted to be on a 6th by now. He certainly has the extra orbitals, and that's all well and good, but then his SCVs really aren't mining optimally at this point, 67 of them. Oversaturated natural, 3rd, 4th. Not by too much, but still. We got our first nuke in action. I think he got that a long time ago, but just now finally using it. I love it. Absolutely love it. We got ourselves a heckin' late game TvP. Usually these guys win or die based off the mid game. Mothership's gonna recall! Oh my god, MaxPax actually using the mothership to some type of clever possibility. No one does that. I thought it was gonna be minus 300, 300. Clem had no idea that was on the way. Down goes his third base. Down go a couple of naturals. But look at the amount of Vikings. Holy shit. 27 Vikings with the EMP hitting most of the army as well. I have no idea how this is going to go. The Vikings trying their best to target fire each individual carrier. The Stalkers blink forward into the awaiting arms of the EMP and the leftover Marauders. And it looks like the supplies are dead even now, favoring the Terran player. It's going to be economic damage. That's all. And that wasn't enough, I don't think. That wasn't the most important base anymore. Clem was able to secure his top left base, far more important, and able to take a 40 supply difference at the end of that fight. MaxPax thought that he had got one up on his Terran opponent, but actually it was almost a trap. Clem was still defensive. His army was still at home, and it had been made to directly counter a mostly air sky toss. You know, the ground was doable just with the Marauders he had left over. The DTs being so obnoxious, but once they're EMP, they're no good. Clem trying to take advantage now of the momentum, but can he actually? Such a large map to get across, so many bases that MaxPax could fall back to as well. Obviously, if he lost this one and this one, it would be a little dangerous, but I don't think he's going to lose this one anytime soon. He does see the ghosts. Cannon's range, apparently just barely seeing that. Really? Huh, okay. All right, fine, I guess. But seriously, that nuke is not going to go off. We do still have one nuke in the pocket. It's going to be heading towards, I don't know, this base, I guess. It's gonna be waiting, chilling. DTs, so many of them, good lord. I think most of them were the saved ones, to be fair, but still, it's a lot of DTs. And if they don't find damage, this is becoming even more of a waste of resources. And they're really not doing all that much. A couple of scans, which are hardly the problem for Clem right now. He's always had so many orbitals. Might want to reshore up his defenses in this hanging base at this point. It's been a problem for him a little bit. Looks like MaxPax isn't aware about that ghost. He's just moving over here. Clem's still holding on to a 40 supply lead. MaxPax's kind of desperate DT gamble, which can actually win games, just to be clear. Like, they didn't in this case, they can win games. If they don't, I mean, it kind of feels hit or miss sometimes. You invest into 10 DTs and they get EMP'd and they get killed. It's a huge waste of resources. But, you know, if they get into all the nooks and crannies of the Terran's base, then it's, you know, it's game winning sometimes. Clem was able to find them out, EMP them, and then be prepared for them later on, too. So he dealt with them, and that was just a lot of resources, so many resources, into a non-standing army, right? And the standing army that MaxPax has is just undeniably worse against the Terran forces. Vikings have landed, Disruptors firing out, but the Vikings lift and land again. And that is it. Clem, for 23 minutes, will win game number 1. Hot diggity damn. Oof. Game number 2 is going to be on Site Delta. Also a map that doesn't get played as frequently. In the bottom right is MaxPax. Top left, it is Clem. That was a hell of a game. Like I said, they don't often find themselves in that late game. I would say generally TvP doesn't find itself in that late of a late game. Even when Spirit was more turtly than he is. He occasionally dips back into some defensive modes, but even when he was super turtly, like kind of bad turtly, I would say rarely went to that point, 23 minutes, but that would be the times that I can think of. Otherwise, so many of the TvPs were do or die around 4 bases. 4 bases, yeah. And certainly between these two, MaxPax is either 4 gating or 3 gating to victory, or Clem was countering afterward and then dealing irrecoverable damage and more on 15 minutes. And then you're playing on a new map as well, one that has a couple of tricks to it. But I guess when you do get out onto the map, is rather wide open, which would favor those concaves of the Terran. Now, MaxPax, I think, just was not planning on such a hefty anti-carrier force, I think is his real mistake there. The mothership play is really fun. Oh god, what did I press? Tilde. Okay, I fixed it. Is really fun, but I think that's a move that was better suited for when you saw the army on the map. Because then it just does so much damage to the production and infrastructure that even if it eventually lost in a similar fashion, it would be a very different follow-up. Or something that's used when the Viking count is at 15, not 24 or whatever it was. and then you're on top of the Viking production. And then that's, you know, the EMP is still effective. I know people are mentioning that, but it is different. It is more recoverable than what it was. Plus, again, the kind of emergency Protoss response to losing a fight, which is warping in that many DTs. They're really supposed to buy a lot more time than they did. The fact that they were caught by the army looked like a gain initially, but quickly turned sour when the EMP went down. So, not that I think the DTs would have actually saved the day. The DTs would have had to done a lot, but I truly believe in their ability to do a lot, is the thing. I believe in the ability of the DTs to get into all 5 bases of the Terran, particularly in the non-planetary ones at least, and then to wreak havoc by a lot of time. Yeah, that didn't happen either, so. I mean, recovering such a large force for the Protoss, it would have been very difficult. Anyway, this is a new map, and a very different one, a little more in line with our usual expectations for StarCraft 2 maps. So by that, I mean it's blinkable. Just, you know, it's what's most pertinent to this particular matchup, is whether or not it's blinkable. And this one's far more blinkable than our last one. Still not really all that much. You also don't have all that much of a close distance between the natural attack and the main attack. And also the natural has a ramp. So one of the, you know, obviously the first benefit of a Blink Stalker-based attack is that you can jump into a very wide open main and then dance around, if possible. Great. If you blink up, you blink all your Stalkers up as well. There's no kind of, you know, shift queuing that's supposed to happen. That's the first thing you might look at. And some other things do include how far away the natural is from the main as far as being able to attack both very quickly. So you threaten the main, the Terran moves to the main, then you threaten the natural, and the Terran can't respond before the bunker breaks. Another thing to think about. And then obviously high ground versus low ground. So this also still is not very foregettable, I would say. But nonetheless, MaxPax is going to go for the 4-gate. And that is 4. Yes, indeed. I always love when, like, there's some that's building and some that's turned into a warp gate. But it is a 4-gate. Now, this is also interesting because of the points I just made about the map, but it's also interesting because it did seem that MaxPax had given up on the 4-gate. He was opting far more often to do 3 gates in their last couple of best of 5s. I did see on their history, they recently played an awarded TV tournament in which Clem won 4-0, but then just before that had lost 0-2. So there's clearly a lot of games still being played from them that I don't watch, but yeah, what I was seeing in the previous weeks was more 3 gates than not. And that was allowing a faster transition for Protoss that Clem was struggling to deal with. But the 4-gate, now back into play. I don't know if this is really the best map for it. I'm a little surprised he's doing it. And, you know, Clem has appropriately blocked out his tank from being jumped upon. Stim just began. This really isn't a big deny. He almost always gets a Raven, too. He's very insistent upon that. The auto turret did go down, no longer helping. Blink on top of that tank, and now this tank also popped out, but it's regular DPS with the help of the Marines. Is enough? No, maybe not. There's an aggressive Blink killing both the tank and the Raven, and Clem might have been chasing when he should have taken the time to retreat. And well, okay then. All right, GG's. MaxPax wins. Good old-fashioned 4-gate way. Series, oh God. Series tied up very quickly. In the bottom right, MaxPax. In the top left, it is Clem. I kind of got whiplash from the 24 minutes game 1 into the 6-minute game 2. Really threw me off, man. Clem, of course, also losing that last game. Like I said, he probably was supposed to defend, given the opportunity to save that tank rather than continue chasing. I mean, maybe he doesn't save the tank at all, but then that got sniped, then his Raven got sniped, and he definitely could have brought the Raven back more to maybe save that. But that might not still have been enough. That was a very fresh tank. The third one was very far away from finishing, so... That can happen. The Sim City is great for the first tank and can rebound on you if the second one pops out on the wrong side. Very much proxied barracks. The most proxy that you can proxy. Unless you lift it, which isn't worth the time spent. So, pretty good. So, of course, the probe scout's going to be able to determine that, but it doesn't know where the barracks is. Zealot was already forming, by the looks of things. So he might have done the cautionary Zealot. Still, a Zealot can only do so much. The Zealot's gonna be able to maybe stop the Reaper from microing as intently, but we're familiar with this. What the Zealot's really good for is ensuring that a bunker doesn't get set up while this is happening, but that was not the threat. Two Reapers available, and both alive, mean that they might still be able to get maybe 2 more probes. Or 1 probe killed for the Proxy Reaper. Not exactly worth it so far. And go into a complete 1-1-1 behind this. So the natural command center very much later, even later, because he has to put it on the high ground to ensure safety. And Clem's follow-up plan is to go into What-A-Mine drops. Good old-fashioned plan here. What-A-Mine drops themselves, definitely not buffed. No drilling claws going to be coming into play anytime soon, but it is going to be armory. So there will be a necessity for a BO5 or Oracle, which the Stargate is here, and the Phoenix is being produced first, but obviously you can get to an Oracle. Triple What-A-Mine, even if it flies directly into a single Phoenix. Obviously the Phoenix can't take care of everything. It's gonna be a single Phoenix plus a Stalker. That's about it. That is literally it. It's all hinging on this. Come on. Okay, a distraction, actually. The Reaper's distracted the Phoenix. I mean, again, not that the Phoenix is going to take care of everything anyway, but it could have lifted one crucial What-A-Mine, like this one, for instance. Okay, we're good. And then it lifted the Reaper instead. 5 probes go down, and a big delay on the mining as the second shot is, I think, assured. The Robo is only just now finishing. So maybe not the biggest delay on mining, but, you know, we're kind of scared about MaxPax not timing this out correctly. It's always a concern. Medevac is going to escape, as the Phoenix do want to make sure the What-A-Mines can be cleared up as fast as possible, but the second shot is going to happen. Good timing on the probe pull from the natural, but clenchy in the main. But again, I guess good enough. Nonetheless, 10 probes with the damage. Math is hard. And now everything's going to be cleaned up. Obviously, MaxPax intended to go into Phoenix Colossus. Means that Clem scouted that, knowing there's an observer. So, a little bit good there. At least the Zealot's trying. That's true. You gotta cheer on the Zealot. He tries so hard. Cyclone and Viking to defend the first wave of Phoenix. 3 of them really not all that scary, so Cyclone Viking will do the trick. No attempt to do a follow-up attack or anything like that. There's a shield bag really natural, and I think it just would be too telegraphed and too easy to defend. 4 Phoenix, probably going to go up to a 5th eventually. Robotics Bay on the way, as we expect. As Clem expects, very, very incredibly unlikely that we have a tech transition. So Clem should be well aware of this. And he might try and get a Raven. Nah, he's not going to get a Raven. Never mind. Just because this is something the Koreans like to do, even against Phoenix play, they still like to get a Raven. But Clem has also not been going for Raven with Interference Matrix. He's actually been going Raven against Protoss if it's a normal game, I guess, like the one where he lost to the 4-gate. He goes for Raven every single time, actually. But he doesn't bother with Interference Matrix. He wasn't bothering with it so much in TvT either. Surprisingly. Was that Clem? Maybe I'm confusing my... I think I'm confusing my Terrans. No, I just seen him mostly play TvP. Yeah. No, so he doesn't like it in TvP. I'm pretty sure he knows about it. And you have to upgrade it, but yeah. And he's definitely not going to get one here. Playing a little more to that standard that European Terran set. The drop with 2 What-A-Mines did manage to skirt around the Phoenix. Could be targeting 3rd base soon. there will be some probes there to go ahead and target. Gonna be timing this out with his first move out. The medevacs are out. Observer will see this, and that will be where most of MaxPax's attention is held. It's tracking this main army. That's when Omlines come in. One would have mind just to be a distraction. Second would have mind was hoping to be further distraction, but the Phoenix arrived in time, and that one would have mind did not do a whole lot. Just killed one probe. I don't even think MaxPax really microed against it, to be honest. Scan to take care of the Observer, and Clem is going to get a drop into the main unnoticed, but it's only one drop of 8 Marines, and I don't think it'll be going into the mineral line, so... yeah, not the worst thing ever. Certainly not. 7 Phoenix now, by the way. You know, that's certainly enough to kill that medevac. The fear would be that you wouldn't have enough army protecting your Colossus on the front lines, but with shield batteries and a Guardian Shield and an Immortal, I think it's perfectly okay. MaxPax, you know, is wary of it, but it's dealing with it too. Looks like the Widowmine did get more damage done. A little friendly fire, actually. In this case, did pop the shield. But that is specifically what the Immortal bug is, so that we've got some confirmation. Is that the friendly fire on the Immortal Disruptor doesn't pop the shield, and then friendly fire otherwise, like, it just doesn't deplete the shield. That's what it is. Phoenix are unable to stop the drop into the main base. 2 medevacs and lots of bio. Shield body overcharge going to help. Like, maybe, nope, not at all, actually. Doesn't really help the probes, does it? Not going to help the Stalker, but the Immortal 2 Colossus will be good enough. Third base under attack at the same time, and Clem is just ripping and tearing through. GG's. Actually, very decisive ending there. Clem now up 2-1. And now potentially the last map in the best of 5. Top left, Psystorm's MaxPax. Bottom right, Team Liquid's Clem. Clem does win this game, or just generally wins the series. He'll be matched with gold medals for Hero Marine. In the European Open Cup, I think Clem is already the most winningest player, combining his North American victories, but the European Cup, man. It will officially be his title. It'll be the Clem Open Cup. It pretty much already is, considering that Hero Marine hasn't made it to the finals in a very long time. And he's actually not even playing today. I mean, it is, but you know, you got to officially grab the title. Proxy Reaper into Widowmine drop follow-up was fairly effective for Clem. MaxPax handled it as well as he could, but, you know, arguably lost more probes than he should. Technically 1 for every Widowmine shot. Would have been the best, but didn't happen. Thank you, Tuco Salamanca. BB, thank you for the prime sub. But he might have been able to stabilize if that 1-2 punch wasn't completely devastating. And Clem's drop into the main base, able to actually fully unload, despite the mass amount of Phoenix that MaxPax had built. And then forced the entire army of MaxPax to respond. Opened up the attack on the third base that was totally undefended. Was able to rip and tear through the probes. There's just no recovery from that. It is absolutely still where Clem's going to have a bit of a power spike. MaxPax was able to stabilize, completely stop the drop. Just the Phoenix are there, you can't drop in. Combine his forces. He might have even gotten that little push out like he did in the first game. But it's perfect time to strike. Clem, incredibly active player, super fast, able to find those opportunities. It might not be a proxy barracks, but it is a NG block on the natural, which MaxPax was very close to denying. He had a probe down there and then went to the main base. But he did get a Zealot just in cases, I guess, and he is going to try and kill that to get his Nexus there because, well, we have seen MaxPax forced to take his third, something that I think in the past he was totally fine with. But after the last time Clem got the... oh, he's proxying a starport. Got the NG Bay block to force the natural onto the third, it was an instant KO. 2 Cyclones and 2 Hellions popped up, and he could not defend it. So I think he's very keyed in on that. He does not want to deal with the third Nexus shenanigans. Third as his natural, you know what I mean? 2 Hellions will pop out, but will not kill the Adept. Kind of crucial, as the Adept is going to be at least 1 extra shot to help out. Proxy Starport not found here on Golden Aura. We'll be able to pump out a Medivac and go for a good old-fashioned Hellion drop. No Cyclones included. This is something that you have to be wary of whenever you see Hellions as the follow-up, of course. The MaxPax is grabbing Phoenix, but age-old question, will they be in position? Clem going for another high ground command center. He's got his 4 Hellions, going to be moving on to bigger and better things. Macro-wise, as he focuses on the Hellion drop to the main where the Phoenix are awaiting, they can pick up two Hellions, take out the one-shot potential. Shield batteries are being placed down as well, which will ensure that, I guess, the most defense can be made. You still might lose, to be honest. It seems to happen, but this is usually the best opportunity for a Protoss player. Clem trying to kind of circumvent the Phoenix positioning, but not really to much effect. 2 Hellions do get picked up, and the next 2 Hellions don't even try. They might try again in the main, but they're going to have a shield battery to contend with, so they need a couple of shots to really get some damage done. All in all, an excellent defense in the early game, and now MaxPax even going around looking for the proxy starport. Does find it. It's not researching. It's going to look for more, actually, a follow-up attack, but now with the ability to reactor out Cyclones, we got 2 of them, relatively cheap too, that are going to be able to immediately stop the Phoenix counter. I'd say with 1 Cyclone, well, that's 1 at a time. Here we go, Mass Repair. Mass Repair is pretty crucial, even if it was the old Cyclone. But now that 2 Cyclones are available, yeah, that was well handled. MaxPax up 9 workers as Clem finally gets his natural on command center. Still not an orbital. Pretty good position to be in. As a Protoss player now heading over into Phoenix Colossus. So one thing that Clem kind of ensures when he goes for an NG Bay block is that he's not going to be facing Blinkstalker. That's not a guarantee, but the Stargate does tend to be the response to the block. We did see Hero, for instance, in KSL, which I don't know if I actually uploaded it yet. So maybe you guys haven't seen it, but there was a Hero game in which he did not go for a Stargate follow-up to the block. He instead, he grabbed his 3rd as his natural, and then he walled his main. And Cure, I believe it was Cure, his Hellions couldn't do anything. There was no probes at the 3rd, and then there was no entry into the main. So that was kind of interesting. And I think a 4-gate occurred after that did kill Cure, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's something that maybe MaxPax could look into, but, you know, as I was saying, it's almost guaranteed that you force the Protoss' hand into Stargate, which is totally fine. I mean, MaxPax really has defended quite well. He's playing this out fine. It's just that if you consider how effective his 4-gate was in the game number 2, you'd think he'd want to do that again. Well, he can't do it. Or he feels like he can't do it. Well, no, Jesus, go, Lord, baby. Medivac was on a troublesome path, but does survive, unloads most of its Marines. Successfully. Yeesh. First Colossus is on the way. 3rd Nexus has a shield battery to protect it, as Clem does make his first move out, stim included. No combat shields, no +1. Hell, not even any Marauders, but good enough to deflect the Phoenix that are trying to buy time. That's the real power of this army. The Phoenix are very poor against it. The shield battery, and especially the Colossus. I mean, Colossus really the biggest, best thing here. That's perfect against Marines and a vulnerable glass cannon Cyclone. So Clem was maybe hoping that there is a supply block, you know? Slight mistiming on the Colossus. Finds no such thing. Handful of Marines, I think, were looking to use the distraction of the main army to the right to then gun into the 3rd. MaxPax seemed to be on to that particular trick. Second Colossus is almost out, and at that point, MaxPax will be pretty good to go defensively on his 3rd base with the high ground and a shield battery, and then his Phoenix can solely defend against the drop, the thing that killed him. Started the killing, I suppose, in the last game. He split his Phoenix, in fact. He's got 9 this game. Good lord, he's really liking the big Phoenix counts. And so he feels comfortable splitting them up. 5 Phoenix does tend to deter drops, but it looks like Clem is going to try and risk it for the biscuit. He goes for the drop yet again into the main. No Medivac actually dying. Everything fully unloading. Colossus getting too close for comfort. Before Extended Thermal Lance was done, shield battery sniped. Now the other Colossus now has injured Marines to fight. So that will have to be an evacuation from Clem. He leaves behind a handful of units, but saves his medevacs once again. Now has 4 Marauders on the front line and 1 less Colossus to contest with. MaxPax maybe screwed up a little bit. He did delay the 3rd CC, but maybe not by enough. Losing Colossus is scary stuff. Clem now has +1 in his pocket as well. MaxPax still not on all of his gateways quite yet, but he is moving on. 6 gases mining, getting ready to go into some High Templars. Charge on the way, as well as what is supposed to be his 4th Colossus, now his 3rd. Just 1 Adept, not even going to distract, just kidding. Misplay place would have mind. That 4th base was bold. MaxPax had no idea where the army was, but fortunately quick to the cancel. It was like 10 seconds in, so that was kind of an important moment there. Some Marines off to the top side, unloaded first and foremost to take care of such an event like this, like Phoenix being left back. Nicely done. 1 Phoenix gets sniped. MaxPax's Phoenix not really doing too much more after their initial highlights. That was defending the Hellion drop. Mine was just about recharged, but not quite, so they picked that off. And now picking off a couple of SCVs, but once again, 4th Nexus, a little too bold. Another cancel there. Okay, that's 3 Colossus and an Immortal. I don't know about that. Now dragged into the Mine. That was an effective one right there. Before SCVs isn't too bad, obviously, and MaxPax able to deflect now entirely the army away from his 4th. Might be able to finally get that. Dropping the main, now the charge is finished, not going to work out. And in fact, MaxPax is now finally to that point in which he can use the Colossus range to abuse his opponent. Something he was unable to do last game, but did try in the first, just didn't really find any success. Will he find success this time around? I'm not so sure. Widowmine's available. Some Marauders, oh, they're a little bit lonely. But oh, the Viking count. The Viking count is nice. Some bio coming in from the south side. It's not really all that much of a surround. The Marine drop coming back as well to try and add in little bits of damage, but the Vikings have been tearing down the Phoenix a little more so than the Colossus. Now they're target firing down those big bad giraffes. War Prism also going down. Enough Vikings left over to kill the rest of the Colossus as well. SCVs, oh no, running into the Archons. Oh, they get destroyed. Until those SCVs died, this might have been a hold, but I mean, even if it is a hold, those SCVs dying is a big blow to Clem's economy. He actually could have evacuated up to the north. I just, he didn't think about it in the time that he was given. So very unfortunate for Clem, as he is now down 30-ish supply, but not an army. And they're actually chasing down many more stalkers that do not have Blink. Blink not even on the way, so that was a big sacrifice on MaxPax's part. Warped in, I believe, to try and help the Colossus against the Vikings, but ultimately dead weight towards the end of it. That's something that Clem can hold on to as he tries to replace his economy, but he is down 24 workers. He's got an upgrade lead, and his army, kind of pound for pound, is pretty impressive, but he does need to return some damage. 4th Nexus up and running for MaxPax thankfully was denied as much as it was, otherwise this would have been saturated a long time ago. But now it might be killed. Observer placed over, not very helpful, but the army, even though it is out of position, Clem doesn't know about it. Doesn't look like his army was powerful enough to snipe it anyway, actually. He's going to retreat, play it safe. Thinks he might have an opportunity to recover, but that is a lot of SCVs to lose. It's the entire 4th Command Center that he would have been building if that had not happened. War Prism heading into a defenseless main. No Vikings there, no missile turret, no Widowmine. More mules dropped in the 3rd base as he desperately tries to recover, but now his production is under fire. The Vikings go back to respond to that when they're going to be necessary on the front line soon enough. 3rd CC just lifts. Nothing else to do. And Clem is going to have to hope that this is one hell of a hold, that this time around he'll be able to kill the entire army of the Protoss, and then maybe get the counterattack in. But more SCVs are dying as Zealots enter into the main and the natural, and MaxPax will indeed tie up the series 2-2. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Oh! I see it. The Adept. I saw it. Nice show in game. Over here. So these pillars are bugged on a lot of maps, actually. This is definitely not the only pillar bug that exists, and the other pillar bug's exactly the same thing. Few maps have pillars in which the army unit will be able to just kind of jump onto it, and then sometimes it counts as high ground, sometimes it doesn't, I think. I don't know which map exactly is which, but yeah, unfortunately there's quite a few bugs coming into the patch, the new maps. But not the most game-breaking. In the bottom left, for Psystorm Gaming, he is MaxPax. In the top right, we do have Team Liquid's Clem. And we spawn on Hecate. Which I remember by saying, all heck. All heckin' G Willikers. That's how we remember it. Can't remember the other one, though. Can't remember the Alcyone or whatever the hell it is. So, game number 5 here. MaxPax. I feel like I do favor him in that mid game. Wait, no, not the mid game. I do favor him as the game goes on for like the late game. Yeah, that's what I meant. Because that first game, even though he ended up losing it, I really had, I guess, I was kind of more so on the side of MaxPax winning, actually, up until the very last moment. And then we have the Colossus game, the last one, which really did hinge on the SCVs going the wrong direction, but you know, it was going to be kind of testy no matter what. And then his Colossus game on the third game, was I think going the right direction, but he did take more damage than you would have hoped against the Widowmine drops, and then just did not have that same protection against the drops that he needed. Just a little shorts of the protection against the Doom drop, so I guess what I'm kind of trying to say is that it feels like MaxPax gets very close to being stable, and then it's just one or two very important moments that do catch him off guard, which I guess many people would kind of say explains the dynamic right now, which is that the Terran can make some mistakes and not necessarily be as punished, but the Protoss can't, which, you know, argue as you will with that in mind. But he's going into a Twilight Council as well, and there's one game that went swimmingly for MaxPax. It was his 4-gate game. And if Clem is going to have a weakness against that, then do it again. Do it again. Now, I still have doubts that it would work. Just because of all the things I mentioned earlier. Oop. That actually did warp in, my bad. Not warp in, they shaded through. Or just ran past, actually, to go and get the SCV. They were able to shade out, however, relatively healthy, but yeah, to focus up, the 4 gates, I was still a little hesitant to believe in because of what I mentioned in the game that it ended up working, to be fair. But it just seems that Clem had gotten a handle on how to deal with his 4 gate. 8 times out of 10, I guess I'll say, because that wasn't the first time that I believed in Clem's defense against the 4 gate, and then it ended up working brilliantly for MaxPax. But there are plenty of other examples of MaxPax 4 gating to no success. So I'm not completely talking on my ass here. It just does seem that's why it's so interesting about the dynamic between these two, is that it feels like sometimes they play series where one player is just dominant. Like Clem 4-0'd him in their most recent match. But then, as dominant as that sounds, it'll turn around in the next series. And you're like, well, that happens. You know, they change styles, they learn about each other, blah, 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 blah. But then the unique factor between these two is that it seems to be the same problem, different variation that you know, ends up doing one or the other in. MaxPax's 4-gate doesn't work 6 times in a row, and then it works 5 times in a row. And it's like, well, you know, it's the same. Just the slight little differences that he makes. This time around, it's not going to be the 4-gate. It is going to be the 3 gates, which I say he's relying more so on the last couple of weeks. So glad to see that he does return to that, as I do think that was a particularly strong change-up for him versus Clem. Again, that one game where the 4-gate worked within 5 minutes. Fantastic. Love that to happen again. No guarantee there will be. But I would actually say similar issue with the Sim City that Clem has set up. You saw that tank have to go all the way around. If MaxPax could know for a fact that would be a problem, you know, then he would maybe add the 4th gateway, but you can't know. So MaxPax is still going to warp in fairly heavily with the Warp Prism and 3 Stalkers per warp in, but he does have a 3rd Nexus. He will be able to afford his Robotics Bay a little bit sooner, and his necessity to deal damage is a little bit lighter. Less onus on him. Adepts get in the natural and, you know, help kill 3 SCVs. That's not bad. Adepts don't have very much more use most of the time. First tank is set up defensively way back there. Second tank is now out as well. And it looks like MaxPax is going to really not dedicate very much at all to this. Just out of range of that tank, but that's enough bio. 4 Stalkers and a Warp Prism more likely to hit the SCV line, but not with tanks protecting both of them appropriately. At the end of the day, the 3 gates have not done much for his aggression. At least not yet. No, first Stalker tanks the shots. The rest blink in, but they are captured by the Marines and SCV pool combined together, and that is the problem. How much do you sacrifice for the tank snipe? 5 Stalkers seems like an awful lot. 4 Stalkers blink back in to grab maybe 4 SCV kills before having to be picked up by the Warp Prism. Maybe more, actually, because Stim is done, but no pop on it. And there you have it. Blink back to the Warp Prism. Whatever little bits of damage he can get without losing any Stalkers is fair game. But he did lose a decent amount with that jump in. Not quite worth it. MaxPax, as I said, could be going into the next stage. Robotics Bay, upgrade, defensive units back at home. That's exactly what he is doing. His 3-gate didn't work out all that much offensively, but a decent number of Stalkers to control a bit of the map isn't a terrible thing to have. It is the balancing act of doing that, though, and actually getting a more powerful army back at home. The MaxPax is pretty freaking good at the balancing act. Clem's army starting to get built up quite a bit. You know, the tank was really the biggest sacrifice there. Sometimes we'll see these types of games where 10 Marines have died and 2 Marauders were sniped as well. And that would make the Stalker's presence more effective. But just a tank, for all the losses that MaxPax took, it just wasn't worth it. So now MaxPax has one of the bigger, more complete Terran armies to combat with, because 3-gate didn't do a whole lot. And it is a scary time. Warp Prism now being tracked by the Widowmine drop. Not going to do anything there, but the Widowmine drop, I guess, also isn't doing anything. That maybe was supposed to only be the charge lots? There we go. Clem is going to be wise to this. Now, this is also the balancing act on Clem's side, I suppose, which is the guessing game more than a balancing act, I guess. You know, does MaxPax commit to pure army defense because he thinks I'm going to run across the map? Or does he commit to big zealot run-bys? And if he defends purely on his side of the map, then maybe Clem can out-micro him and out-power him with the strong bio army. But then if MaxPax does send zealots in while Clem sends his whole army across the map, well, that buys a lot of time. This is a questionable engagement for the Protoss. Very questionable indeed. MaxPax underestimating the amount of bio, I believe, that Clem had. Force field's not enough to stem the tide of battle. I guess Charge Lot's supposed to be coming in on the backside, but that didn't really work out there. They do take out the tank, but lose their lives, a couple of Widowmines, and the rest of the Protoss army is going to get torn down by the Marauders, but Warp Prism also in the main base, I guess, doing some damage, being cleaned up fairly quickly, but still adding in the SCV damage on the 3rd base rally. 17 SCVs do go down. MaxPax absolutely looking for the distraction play. That's why he moved forward. He had Zealots going into the natural and a Warp Prism in the main. But it did cost him the attack on the front, and that's something that he wasn't planning on. That's not intentional. He was hoping that that would be able to escape thanks to the force fields or the distraction itself, that Clem would be too spread out. And then too little army would be there to defend the 3rd. But the timing didn't work out quite as perfectly as MaxPax was hoping. Now he's losing further Zealot reinforcements or run-by attempts to finding the Terran army. Well, I guess you now know where the army is incoming, but do you have enough to actually stop it? It's a rather unhealthy Terran army because it's been stimmed so much, but it is on the front lines. No shield battery in play. Only a single Colossus doing damage is not all that much, and Vikings starting to tear it down as well. Now a couple of more Vikings, but a second Colossus. They are trying to tear down these Marauders. So unhealthy, but just barely enough to jump on top of the last remaining Colossus. Shield by the Overcharge trying to save the day. Will not be able to save that Colossus. And without the Colossus, MaxPax will not be able to hold. He is down to 30 army supplies, some of which is actually on the other side of the map getting cleaned up by the reinforcements. Clem is going to do it at the very last second. In a very topsy-turvy game number 5. I believe he has gotten enough victories to say that he should win this game. And if he does, he will tie the gold medals with Hero Marine for the European Open Cup. MaxPax has made his fair share of comebacks happen. Can he do it again? Losing the 4th base, a pretty big blow. If he had saved that, but had lost 15 probes, I'd say it's possible. But having the probe count but no 4th base, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be the same, because the 4th base leads to the shield battery overcharge. It sets up the defense if it's actually down, right? Where in this case, you have to wait for it. So that's where I'm coming from when I say that I might have preferred probe losses if you could choose, which you can't, obviously. Sometimes it's the other way around, though. Sometimes the worker's being kept alive, but the Nexus or the command center or whatever it is falling is actually better, but... I don't know. Clem with a dominating army supply. Equal upgrades, although MaxPax is actually starting his 2nd attack upgrade faster. Also, Hail Mary Dark Shrine on the way. It's definitely possible MaxPax comes back. But Clem has cleaned up everything back at home. Further defense as well, at least in his natural and his main. I guess his bunker never left, in fact, so that has helped. But his 3rd now has a bunker, and the main now has Widow Mines, and, well, probably should move this army. I don't think this is intentional. Things have certainly slowed down. MaxPax will be able to recover his 4th base. Clem licking some of his own wounds, but does still have a very strong army. 16 Marauders. DT's found out before they can enter into the main. 2nd DT actually accidentally walking into the scan, too. MaxPax is just distracted, doing something else. 3rd, I guess, also is being attacked, and Clem just dealt with everything easy peasy. And now, of course, the DTs have been revealed, so Clem will be a little more wary of defending them. Further emphasis, perhaps, on the missile turrets. Yep, absolutely. Doesn't bother with any in his main, I guess. Viking to Widow Mine, certainly enough. Again, lifted factory for scouting. 4th command center turning into a planetary. Once he's got that down, he will be able to focus entirely on his engagements. 2-2 has started for the Terran, but MaxPax will have an upgrade lead for 60, 70 seconds, something like that. Also going into triple Robo. Disruptors, hell of a good unit for buying time at the very least. MaxPax certainly still trying to make the comeback happen. It's on him. But he's finding himself in a slightly more comfortable position. Able to reestablish his 4th and get up a 5th base at the same time. Harassment's really not working out very well at all. This was 3 DTs, 4 Zealots, and a Warp Prism for a total of, I think, 6 SCVs. And hardly any time buying, because Clem wasn't moving out anyway. Clem seems to be waiting for his maxed out army before taking to the map once more. Which is giving MaxPax time to produce all of these Robo units. 4 Colossus. Upwards to 5, maybe even 8 Disruptors before Clem makes his way across the map. That can't possibly be all of his army, right? There it is. More AI units are coming. Clem is almost maxed out and still has a 20 army supply lead, but again, out upgraded currently. He might be hitting with even upgrades, though, but 25 seconds on that +2 attack. Disruptor number 1, just a warning sign. No, don't. Stop, no. Great EMP. Hits a lot of the Protoss army. Vikings tear down 1 Colossus without losing too many of their own. More Disruptors whiffing, just trying to buy time. Clem might be trying to count the shots as well. Thinks maybe if he can get that high ground, he can actually take this fight. Maybe he's right about that. Another Colossus falls, only down to 1. Disruptors gonna get their shots back soon. I mean, there's enough Disruptors that there will be pretty continuous shots. But will it be enough? Is 1 Disruptor shot at a time enough? Oh, okay, there's the run. And oh, Lord, baby Jesus, that's what MaxPax needed. Clem, I think he tried to split there and then misclicked, I think is what happened. Because running back in just for, you know, that was not it. Probably not the intention. And that was a pretty crucial second to kill that much supply, because Clem really was looking to gun to the high ground. Like, he was thinking about it. That's why he was dancing so often. But having been deterred from that, and maybe he should have been doing this in the first place anyway, he is going to split his army a little bit, get a cancel on a 6th base. Again, that 5th was already established. A Colossus apparently still alive. Where the hell did you come from? And Clem is not going to look towards that. He's not going to get on the high ground before the disruptors appear, however. MaxPax using these defensive chokes on his bases as well as he possibly freaking can. Clem is having trouble getting to a position in which he can do his maximum dancing. The splitting, the concaves, the sniping, all that good stuff. He can't do it. Not up a ramp like that. 10 disruptors. Healthy count, must say. MaxPax 5 bases, almost maxed out himself, has recovered from the early game. Clem still going to have to try very hard to actually get this victory. And there's another disruptor shot that wasn't paying attention to. Clem. He's on his own 5 bases. Rather well protected. Again, very good anti-warp prism defense, with the Vikings missing. One of mine should be able to shoot, right? But it won't kill the warp prism. Apparently did in the missile turret right there. Oh, Liberator, just shoot, just shoot, just shoot. Oh, too late. DT's in the main. A weird blink, actually, funnily enough. And now, MaxPax comboing the Warp Prism aggression with his own major army attack. Well, accidentally loses the Colossus right off the bat. Not exactly ideal, but Clem is still all over the place, I want to say. Where is his army? It's over here. It's over there. It's in the main. And he's all not right here. Stopping the Protoss army for getting on the high ground and now using the position that Clem wanted to get so eagerly against him. Command center goes down, but now the Protoss army is all over the place as well. Disruptors just shooting out, trying to do the damage. Some of them getting the shots. Liberator sieging up to deter the Disruptors further, but that 3rd CC is a goner. The SCV is dead. The 6th base that was built was the first thing to die, and Clem is taking some damage. Liberator's pointing the wrong direction as MaxPax looks to basically base trade at this point. Clem is trying to engage the rest of the Disruptors. Taking 10 Disruptors down, probably worth it. If he only loses 1 orbital, if he only loses 1 orbital, if he only loses 1 command center, he loses a 2nd one. A crucial defensive structure. So close to actually surviving, and now he's being chased down. MaxPax was on the brink of defeat a couple minutes ago and is now looking at killing Clem, denying him the evening of the gold medals. Clem is in a lot of trouble. He could have recovered, I think, with 4 bases relatively healthy, but now down to his original 3. Or, well, no. Actually, this is his 4th. But nonetheless, now down against someone who has the map control, who has the economy to replace the DTs and the Disruptors. Really, the only thing that Clem can depend on are his Liberators to buy him time. There is a chance for Clem to recover, but it's got to be perfect. It's got to be really good from here on out, and I don't know if he can do it. Stalkers and Zealots on top of the planetary before the SCVs can repair. Not worth trying to repair once the Zealots envelop the command center. Now it's all about Clem trying to take the best possible engagements. 1 Disruptor in play, 4 in total. I don't know where the other ones are. This one not going to get a shot. Another 2 coming forward. MaxPax's further base taking is quite aggressive, to be fair. So if he loses here, he'll lose in general. The Disruptor's being pounced upon at this point. Liberators sieged up. More Disruptors could be targeted with Marauders slow, taking them down. There you have it. 1 more Disruptor not going to get slowed. Not going to get taken down anyways. And that Nexus is a goner. This Nexus as well. 3rd base is going to have to be lifted. Clem is totally all in at this point. He's taken down some of MaxPax's most important mining bases, but MaxPax got a bit of a bank. He's got Disruptors to try and buy time. And he's got this base to the bottom right that could get back to mining. He's got the power of DTs as well, and he's got the power of run buys. He could get on top of the production. Clem is all in, but I don't know if the army can actually do it. It's choosing to retreat. It's killed 2 Nexus. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Clem needs a 3rd base up and running. He's floating on over to try and get at least some mining back underway. But now he's also caught in a little bit of a weird position. Vikings landed, not helping out as much as they possibly could. Here we go. Disruptor gets a bit of a shot. MaxPax's overall supply looking dominant. That's Disruptor's a goner. Yep, that was a good snipe, and another good snipe as well. But now that last Disruptor shot was too freaking good. And MaxPax will once again stop Clem from matching the gold medals of Hero Marine. He's going to have to try again next week. MaxPax. Amazing TvP being played there. Wins out for this particular Open Cup. GG's. What a game. What a game.